Hi guys, good evening, and good to see a lot of people. It's heartening to see a lot of people come on time. All right, so let's get started. Let's not waste any time. We have limited time, limited days, and we will get right to it. I've also posted a quick sheet. Hi guys, good evening. Hear my own voice. That was the live stream. So I posted a quick sheet. If in case you did not attend yesterday's class for some reason, you could also refer to that sheet. It will give you a quick idea of what exactly was covered, and if that was something which you already knew before, that could help you come on the same page quicker. All right, I think something's wrong with my internet. Guys, just give me exactly 30 seconds. All right, I'll just try to log out and log in again. So my screen was acting funny. I don't know why that happened. I think looks normal now. All right, let's get started from where we left yesterday, and that was if function. How many of you were able to get the answer for this? Anybody give it a shot? Anybody faced any challenge? If you were able to solve this, that's fantastic, and you can just put it on the chat box. Okay, you can just put it in the chat box that you were able to solve that. And if in case you were not able to do that, that's fine. I will be explaining you the logic. What about the rest? So Yash, I know you've been texting since yesterday and you're pretty excited about that. What do you call the assignment? That's good to know. But what about the rest? Anybody else give it a shot on the if function, this assignment that we were supposed to do? Or should I just give you the answer? I mean, I can just prepare you for it. Or do you want me to give you the logic and you want to try it once right now in the class? It all depends upon you. Okay, so let me give you the logic first, because it's always good. That's how I like it, to first give you a chance to understand the logic and then give it a shot, so that you will actually be able to apply it even in the future. Okay, so let's start by giving you a logic first. Okay, now as I said, I wanted you to go traditional while solving this problem, right? And what I mean by going traditional was creating a flow chart, right? So if you see, what was the problem that was supposed to be solved, right? We had to grade basis a criteria, right? And what was the criteria? If you see on the right hand side, you can see the criteria that if the grade is greater than 60, then the grade is A. If it is between 50 and 60, the grade is B, and similarly C and D, right? Now, if someone had not attended my last class on if function yesterday's, this will just be a refresher also. All right. So this is how the if function looks like, right? Logical test, value if true, value if false, right? Which basically means it will test a logic, and the logic can be anything, right? It could be equal to a value, it could be less than equal to a value, it could be greater than equal to a value, right? It could be equal to a text, right? It could be that the cell is empty, right? N number of things can be logic, right? But in our case, the logic is obviously the grade criteria, right? So if you see on the right side, the yellow box that you see out here is my logic. This is what the logic has been presented to us, right? And most of the time, the problem itself will tell us the logic, correct? So if we start from there, okay, and I'm going to go very slow on this if function, okay? So if anybody does not understand, feel free to stop me, okay? Do not think, don't hesitate. Just make sure that you put up, just raise your hand, or just put it in the chat box, whatever. Okay, so let's start with the first logic. Okay, and I'm going to write exactly what the if function asks. Okay, the if function asks for the logic. So the first logic, so yeah, so good question. I suppose you Dhruvil, I think attended the last class, right? Okay, so anyways, I'll try to do the same thing. Remember in my last exercise, what we were trying to do, the if function was trying to test a logic out here, whether we had made profit, and then basis that logic, if that logic was met, that yes, the profit was made, that means we were positive. Okay, we made positive money, then tax was getting calculated, right? Remember? So that is exactly what the if function does. Basis a logic, it performs an operation. Okay, so the logic here is that the first logic here is that is it greater than 60, right? Now there can be two outcomes to it. So traditionally you would have tried to make a flow chart, something like this on the paper, like greater than 60, and then two outcomes can happen, right? So the first outcome, which is value if true, right? This is exactly what I'll try to do it on the left. Okay, so if it is true, or it can be false, right? So this is our first outcome. So what we are saying Excel, we are telling Excel is that if it's greater than 60, what do you want me to do? Now you got to tell me that, right? You can just see the grading criteria out there on the right hand side. If this logic is met, what do you want Excel to do? Look at the logic here. If it is greater than 60, what is greater than 60? First of all, it's the overall average. This value out here. All these values are what we are trying to test, right? So if the overall average is greater than 60, then either it can be met. That means this logic will be met. Okay, it will be true, and you'll perform some function. And if it is not met, then you'll perform some other function, right? So you tell me exactly, right? So you want Excel to display A. You don't want it to do any calculation. Rather, what you want to do is to display A. Now, I have used double quotes here. The reason is if you are not referring and doing the calculation, and instead if you are hard coding, Excel does not understand characters, right? So if you want Excel to show A, specifically show the character A, you will have to put double quotes starting and at the end. Okay. Now think for the second part. Okay, think for the second part. If it is false, then what do you want Excel to do? If it's false, what do you want Excel to do? So it has already tested if it is greater than 60, isn't it? Already tested. That means if it was greater than 60, it has already shown A, right? Getting it till here? Okay. But if it is not greater than 60, now it can be anything else, right? It could be all the way up till 36 also. So ideally, what I would want to do is I want to again test one more logic, that overall average is greater than 50. So at this moment in the false section of my first formula, what I'm basically doing is trying to test one more logic. That means in my function, there will be one more if function which is open. Okay. So again, for this logic again, okay. So there's a logic, and inside the logic, there's one more logic. Okay. In this logic, again, there could be a true or a false. Right? Now you think if it is not greater than 60, that's the reason why it reached here. Right? But if it is greater than 50, that means it is between 50 and 60. Then what is that you want Excel to display out here? Think. If it is greater than 60, it has already shown the character A. But now since that is not met, it has come here and it is testing again whether the overall average is greater than 50. And if 50 gets met, what is the grade criteria? Exactly. Right? So the character which will be shown is B. Let's say even this was not met. Okay, this criteria also got rejected. Right? So it will come to another false. Okay, so it will go here. Again, you will test a new logic, which is overall average is greater than 36. I think we are not left with more. So we are just left with testing if it's greater than 36. Now think, it is not greater than 50, but it is greater than 36. Okay. So again, for this also, there could be a true and a false. Right? Let me change the color. Now, if it is greater than, if it is not greater than 50, but it is greater than 36, then what is the criteria here? What is that you want Excel to display? C. And if nothing is met, so there's no more logic to test, right? Because you've already reached to the final. There is no other option available. So what you will lastly show is D. So this is how the logic. So if you see here, this is your first main if function which opens. Okay, then this is the second if function inside an if function. And lastly, there is one more if function out here, which is the third if function. First, second, and third. Also, you can call it as nested if function. Somebody yesterday mentioned on nested if function. So this is what is a nested if function. Okay. Now what I want you to do is, since I've already given you the logic here, okay, I want you to just keep my screen half on the right side, open your Excel to the left, just minimize your Excel. Okay. How to minimize this is how we used to do research. Okay, when we had to actually see an annual report on the right hand side, what you could actually do is you could just minimize this, just reduce the size of this. Okay, and on the half part of it, just keep my screen open and try to replicate this logic on your if function. I would be doing it as it is. That's not a problem. Okay, so do not worry. If you do not get it, what will happen? Nothing will happen. Just try to replicate this at your end. Alt tab can also work, but you will have to keep on going. It's pretty frustrating. I want every one of you to give it a shot. Okay, do not try to skip it. because it's easier than what it looks like. It looks pretty complicated today. Okay. But when you will do it right now with me, you will find problems. And that's how you learn. Right? So do not be afraid of making mistakes. It's just Excel. It's not real life. You're not trading your money on this. Okay. And what I want you to do after that is, since I just want to quickly check whether you've done it correctly, I would encourage you to do is, if you could probably just take a small photo of it. Okay, just take a photograph of it and put it in the WhatsApp group. So it's very easily you can just check whether you've done it correctly or not. Okay. All right. So 3 logics again. Do not get confused. I'm telling you, when I will do it, you will be like, oh, that was so easy. Right. So just give it a shot. Open your if function. See, this is how the if function looks like, right? So I'll just write the text version of it so that it's not self-explanatory. I want you to think, right? So this is how the if function looks like, right? The logic, right? So you would try to test an overall edge which is greater than 60. That would be your logic, right? And value of true, if it is met, then it's A. Then again, you will open up another if function. So this is how it should look initially. Okay. So again, this same format will continue till you reach the third if function, and then you close the entire formula. Oh, you're not there in the WhatsApp group? I don't know. Okay. Let me see if I can add you quickly. Okay. What I could do is yeah, I can do that. All right, Mahesh, just give me a moment. I'm just going to add you up. Hi, Mahesh, I sent you the link. All right, any answers? Mm, okay. So the way to check it, if in case you are able to handle it, is to just check, just do a small quick check if the grades are actually meeting the criteria, and that should give you the idea whether this is actually working or not. My voice is not audible. Is it for everyone or is it just someone. I suppose that my settings are fine. All right. Okay, should I show it? Confirm. Should I show it to you? Should I share the answer? Okay, let's do it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just try to put this a little down so that we have a clean area. So this is how the function will look like. Okay, pay attention. So the logical test. Okay, the first logical test. So the way to deal with it is to look at various stages of logic instead of just putting the function. Okay, so we are dealing with this part first. Okay, the yellow part, the orange part. Okay, so overall average, you select the overall average. Okay, is greater than, what's the criteria? 60, comma. So you have dealt with this part, the first logic, overall average is greater than 60. Okay, now if you look at the value of true for the first one, what is the value of true? It's A. So double quotes A. Okay, so we are done with the yellow part. Now we are going to the second yellow part, which is the false part. Now remember, we are going to testing a new logic. We are retesting a new logic. All right. So the new logic is what? Again, open the if function. You cannot test the logic again unless you open another if function. All right. So what I've done here is double quotes, comma, in the value of false of the first logic which I've opened, I open one more if function. All right. And that's what is written here. See, overall average is greater than 50. So again, I'm going to select overall average, right? So B21 remains same because we are testing one cell for now. Okay, is greater than 50. All right, that's exactly what we have written here. Now, since now we are into a next if function, now there will be a value of true for this as well, and which is this green part. And this green part says that the value of true for this second if function is B, right? So I've put the double quotes and B is visible now. Now, the second part of this if function is the false part. Okay, so let's put a comma here. And again, there's one more if function. So this is the third if function, another logic. So I open the third if function. Okay. Now, you know, the usual problem is when people try to look at the left side, they tend to get confused. That's why I'm saying do not look on the left. Look at the logic which you have written. Okay. So we have reached till here. Okay. The last green false. Okay. And the overall average is same. B21 is greater than 36. All right. Now we are coming here, the true part. Okay. Which is C. And finally, there is no another if function. If you see here in my logic, I haven't put another logic. Okay. So the final thing which we write here is D. Okay. Now, this is where another confusion starts for people. Okay. Which is how many brackets do we close? And which is the final bracket, right? So easy way to identify, okay, is just to match the colors. Okay. Excel is smart enough to give you the colors. So what will happen is if you see here, the last bracket to be opened was in violet color, right? I mean, whatever color you want to call this. I mean, for me, this is violet. Okay. So it should be violet first. So there you go. So the first bracket is closed. Okay. The last bracket is closed. If you put the bracket again, which is shift 9, you see the second bracket got closed. Okay. Which was the second bracket to be opened. And this is the last bracket which gets closed, which is the first bracket to be opened, right? So whichever bracket was opened first gets closed at the end, which is fine. I mean, it's pretty logical because the main if function was the first which we opened, right? And this is where your absolute matching of the brackets will happen, right? Press enter. There you go. Okay. So Control C, copy this, select your area, and press Control V. There you go. Wonderful, Dhruvil. Good to see that. Ajay, I hope this worked. Mitesh, I mean, whatever method, right? You've used an AND function out there. If it's working fine, just match your results with mine. I mean, is the grade getting calculated properly? Then it's fine. Then it's perfect. Okay, you want me to share the formula? All right, I'll do that. There you go. Not really, because if you see here, I have actually just used hard coding of the text, right? A, B, C, D are the references. I could have done the second method could be, instead of displaying it A like this, I could have selected it from here, right? In that case, I would have needed a dollar sign, but in this, it's unnecessary. So this is just for demonstrative purposes, right? Yeah. I mean, if you have a reference, that's fine. All right. Was this interesting? Was this useful? You will find it out how useful this is. I'll tell you where this gets used. In your normal financial models, it might not, because when you're trying to analyze financial statements of companies, you really do not write such big logics. Okay. But where it gets used is into quantitative trading systems. Pardon my spelling right now. Okay, I'm doing it faster. Okay, so if you are building a quantitative trading system, how many of you have heard about algorithmic trading? All right, algorithm trading. Anybody heard about that? So what is algorithm trading? Is that you build certain logic similar. Okay, so basis a criteria. Okay, so there are buying criterias, there are selling criterias, and there are position sizing criterias, right? How much to buy. So basis this criterias, you could actually build a trading system. And that's where initially when you're starting off building a trading system, if functions, I mean, immensely. I mean, in my trading system, in my time, these were the big, these big logics have been made. Okay, but and you might say that, okay, you could replicate it using a software, but okay, so you can't just start building a software right from the start, right? You would like to back test with some smaller examples. Yeah. All right. So this is where actually it gets used, but it's fun to learn, right? That's the problem. Anyways, so I hope this is done. All right. A second exercise later, when you have time, what you could do is you could try to use an exact opposite order of the same logic. So I started with greater than 60. Okay. You could try with 36. All right. So that's for later. You can try it out at your own time, because we have to move to something a newer Excel, which is we will learn a new function today. Okay. So the next Excel to download is the lookup Excel. Okay. The lookup file. Lookup data file. Okay. So we'll be learning VLOOKUP, and I will not just talk about VLOOKUP, but we will talk an interesting part about VLOOKUP, which is the challenges of VLOOKUP. Okay. So I'm sure everybody knows how to use VLOOKUP. And even if you do not, you will anyways get it. But according to me, VLOOKUP has a lot of limitations. And that's what we try to solve. All right. Let me know once you have the file, and let me know when to start. No problem. Okay, wonderful. What about the rest? Everyone has the files? Just confirm. Dhruvil, what I was saying is, let's start with the next file, and the next file is the lookup file. 1-lookup. You don't have a laptop? Okay. So I would suggest probably you get hold of a laptop. Because otherwise, this is no point. All right. So let me just zoom my Excel. So you see data out here, right? On the left-hand side. This function is used on almost a daily basis if you're dealing with data. Any kind of data, doesn't matter, right? Whether it's sales data, whether it's operational data, whether it's financial data, doesn't really matter, right? And there will come times when you will be given a certain part of the data, right? For example, if you see here, the data that we are looking at in this table is, we can see customer number, we can see customer name, we can see order number, we can see its associated revenue, and we can see its associated profit, right? And it is pretty obvious or pretty possible that someone might just tell you that, okay, why don't you tell me the customer name of a client whose customer number is 19800, right? And this tends to happen a lot of times, right? So the obvious thing is, a lot of people, what they will do is they'll try to use filters, or they'll try to put filters on the Excel, but that's a tedious task, right? So instead, what we could do is we could use the VLOOKUP function. All right. Now, as the name suggests, it's VLOOKUP. So if it's V, which stands for vertical, there could obviously be a H lookup also, which is horizontal, right? In either of the cases, the logic of the function is same. Okay. The only thing is how it looks for a data. Okay. Now, also there is one more function, which is the lookup function, which is a primitive version of lookup, VLOOKUP, right? So in the order of its importance, I would probably rate VLOOKUP as the most important. The second would be the HLOOKUP, and hardly used is the lookup function, right? So we're gonna stick to VLOOKUP first, right? And I'm gonna give you, and the best way to learn it is actually do it, right? So we're gonna use VLOOKUP, and just follow with me directly, and you will understand it. Okay. So we want to use this customer number to find customer name. All right. So let's start with equal to sign, right? We all are aware that every Excel function starts with an equal to sign. So let's put in the equal to sign and type in VLOOKUP. And as soon as you type V and L, the description of the function pops out, right? And I would want you to just spend about 10 seconds just looking at what exactly is written there. Okay. So in the description, it's written looks for a value, looks for a value. The value that we are talking about is the customer number, right? On the leftmost column of a table. However, what is not written in this description, the first part is, it actually what it means is, it looks for a value. That means it will look for 19800, right? In the leftmost column of the table that I specify, okay? And then returns a value in the same row. So forget about the second part. We'll look at that. Okay, but always understand the most important critical part of this function where people tend to get confused is that the leftmost column of which table? Are you talking about the table that is given here, or are you talking about the array selection? Remember, array is a collection of cells, right? An array I can specify, right? So let's double click on VLOOKUP, and you can clearly see that the lookup value is now highlighted. What it actually means is, it's saying select the value that you want to search, right? And what is that we want to search? We want to search 19800, which is H5, right? So I selected H5. I'll come to array. I'll come to what is an array. We already discussed that yesterday, but that's okay. It's a collection of cells, okay? It's a table. Another word of array is table, right? So lookup value, I've selected 19800, right? Put a comma. Now, this is where the confusion starts for people, okay? Remember the description, what did it say? It looked for the value in the leftmost column of a table, and that is the exact table that it's talking about. So it's not talking about the table which you have put in here. So that means you need to select the table, okay? How do we do that? So as you put comma, use your mouse to just push this to the left, okay? Push this to the left and come to this table, okay? Come to this location on A3, which is column number A and row number 3. All right. Now, there is one more confusion that people tend to always have is, should I select from the headers of the document or the table, or should I select it from the data? It really makes no difference. Okay, it really makes no difference. So I can select it from here. I can select it from here. It has absolute no effect, because what will instead happen is that your numbering will change, right? So if you select it from here, you basically have one more extra row, right? So whether you select it from customer number has no difference. Now, remember, it is telling us to select a table array, right? Now, fortunately, what has happened is, while we are going to select this table, the customer number data is already on the leftmost side. Okay, so this is just a coincidence. It's not always going to be happening like this, right? But now remember what we are trying to find. What are we trying to find? We are trying to find customer name. Okay, so I've got two options now. I can also select the entire table, the data which I don't even require, right? Or I could also stick with just this much selection. Okay, I could also stick with only the A and the B column. Okay, or I could also extend it. It is going to do no harm. Okay, now the easiest way to select the table all at one go, instead of doing it like this is going to take time, right? One step, using arrow keys. The easiest way to do is, let's say we come to this cell, you press shift and right arrow keys to select the next column, the column that you want the data to be selected. And now just listen carefully, control shift and down. Control, shift and down arrow keys all at once. So that will give you entire selection in one go. All right. So you can see here, I've selected it from A2 all the way up to B20. All right. Now that's where my array selection is over. Put a comma. Okay. Now again, let's go to what the objective was. The objective was to find customer name, right? And remember the second part of the VLOOKUP function, what did it say? It returns the value in the same row, okay? So that means what it's going to do is, it's going to go to the left column and it's going to just search out 19800, okay? But it's always going to look at the left, okay? And it's going to look at 19800. So see, there we are here on row number 7, right? And now what it's going to do is, if I mention column index, what is the next thing that it's asking? Column index, right? What it means is, in this table selection that you have done, which is A2 to B20, which column data do you want to show or find out? So this is 1 and this is 2. So if I press 2, what it's going to do is, it's going to come to 7th row. It's going to find out the 19800 and it's going to give you the same row data on the next column. All right. So 2 is selected, put a comma. Now, since most of the times you exactly want to find the right value, okay, so you always use false, which is also represented by 0. Okay, you never try to I've actually never used VLOOKUP to find an approximate match, right? So most of the times we are using exact match. All right, so for exact match you put a number 0. All right, and press enter. There you go. Why 2? Because if you see in this table, see what did it say? In the leftmost column of a table that you specify. So I specified this table, right? Now, what are you looking? What was a lookup value? 19800. So 19800 is getting looked up in the A column, the left column, right? So it will come to the 7th row, right? Now, what data do you want to see? Finally, what was your objective? Your objective was to find customer name. So in which column is it? Is it on the first column or the second column? Forget about the numbering and the naming of the column in Excel. It really doesn't matter. What matters is the order in the selection that you have done. So in the selection you have done, the B column is the second column, right? So hence the 2 which I mentioned here. All right. Press enter. So good works and company. So it exactly did this. What it did is, it went to 19800 here, right? And then what it did, it just found the next value on the row, right? On the same row, it found the next value, which is good works and company. So that's how the VLOOKUP function works. It's a very simple logic if you actually see. But oftentimes the main confusion is what table. So is this the table, the already made table as per data, or is it the selection which I have made? Always remember the selection which I have made is the definition of table according to Excel. Okay. Now, the next part. Okay, we're gonna practice this again. Okay, we're gonna practice this again. So if you did not understand it, you will again understand it. So don't worry. Everything is useful, Dhruvil. Okay, everything is useful. And once you come to the work life, you will realize that this function will always be useful. Now, can I use good works and company? So now let's say I told you that customer name is what you have as data. And can you use customer name to find profits? Can you quickly put the function? Now, and on another confusion that people have is that VLOOKUP does not work in text. It works in text. It can look up for text, number, anything. Okay. So can you just quickly try to put the function, the VLOOKUP function? You need to use customer name to find profits. And if you have found the profit using the customer name, you can move ahead and use order number to find revenue. Okay, wonderful. If you're done with that, then go and use order number to find revenue quickly. Do not wait. Every function which we will be learning is useful. Okay, so I have not put in anything in the curriculum which is just theoretical. And I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you why. Wonderful. So this is how the next function will look like. So we're going to use now the name of the customer to find the profit he has given to the company, right? So the lookup value is going to be I5, which is Good Works and Company, right? Put a comma again. Table that I specify. I'm repeating this again and again because I've been teaching this function for a lot of time, and it's a common mistake. It's a common mistake. Okay, that's the reason why I'm repeating this, and you might find it irritating, but that's okay. All right. So customer name. Remember, it will look for the value for customer name. So how should my selection be? If I select it from here, let's say, then it will try to look for Good Works and Company out here. We don't want to do that, right? Because it has to look at the leftmost. So my selection has to be this way. Okay, now it will perform the operation correctly. So it will look for Good Works out here. It will come to 7th row. And then if you specify which column, right? For example, customer name is the first column, order number is the second column, revenue is the third column, and profit is the fourth column. So if you press whatever, if let's say you press 2, then it will give you the order number. If you press 3, it will give you the revenue 19601, and if you press 4, it will give you the profit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use 4 for the fourth column. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And last would be 0. Why 0? Because we are looking at an exact match. So it should give you 560, and I'm assuming that most of us have got this right. Right? So this is what the function looks like. And I'll just keep it open in case if anybody wants to refer to it again. All right. Now, let's use order number to find revenue. Again, we look up. The lookup value is order number. Again, the table array that I specify. So that means the table that has to be on the leftmost side will have to be the order number table column. Sorry, right? So the order number is here. Right now, I can also obviously restrict myself to selecting it till revenue, but it really doesn't make any difference, right? So what I can do is I can also select till profit, right? So I did the selection. Now it will try to look for 40002 2226 out here, right? Out here. And then if I press 3 as the column index, then it will give me profit. If I press 2, it will give me 6551, right? So since we are trying to find revenue, it's going to be the second column, right? Second column and 0. So the exact match. 6551.0. Right? Are you good till here? Now this is where the interesting part begins, right? You might be thinking that, okay, this is okay, but there's nothing great in this. Okay, now, can you use revenue to find customer number? I want everyone to think about this, okay? Can you use now with the same logic, using the revenue, can you find the customer number now using VLOOKUP function? Exactly. Yeah, Prachi, if it can work, please let me know. Can it work? No. The reason why it will not work, unless of course you copy this to the left of customer number, then, but how many times will you going to be doing that, right? I mean, today you just have what? How many rows of data do you have here? I mean, just 18 rows, right? I mean, that's a joke. The case study which I will be giving you at the end, which we will be doing it, okay, might be having close to about 3,000 3,000 rows of data. It's practically impossible to change the formatting, because if you change the formatting once, you might have to change the function formatting again. So you can't keep on doing that. X lookup. Okay, so I haven't tried X lookup, but I'm sure that's interesting. So I'll just try to find it out later after the class. Okay, but for now, the reason why I raised up that question was to go into another interesting function, which is, can anybody guess? Yash is asking why so? Because if you see, Yash, revenue is here, right? So I will do the selection this way. So it will look for revenue out here. But how am I supposed to display customer number in the left hand side, right? It's not possible. It goes against the logic of VLOOKUP, because VLOOKUP will look to the left. What is the next function which I could be using? Yes. So Sunny got it right. Thanks, Sunny. Index and match. Okay. Mostly I've seen in my classes that people are not much aware of this function. No, yeah, if you could shift it, but then it will like, how often can you shift it, right? Because the next question I'll ask, you'll have to shift it again. So that means your formula is not static, right? Because if your formulas are structured in that formatting, the next time you shift the data, your formula will not work. Yes, the formula will be tempered, exactly. All right, so we will get into the next function, which is index and match. Okay, now let's try to understand these step by step. Okay, first is index. Let's understand what is index, and then we will understand what is match. Okay, what index function says is, let us just open the function itself, and you will see the description of the function. It returns a value or reference of the cell at the intersection of a particular row and a column in a given range. Again, what it's basically saying is it really does not do anything. Okay, what it does instead is, this is what it does. Okay, so I'm just going to demonstrate it, just observe it. Okay, just observe, don't do it. So it is saying to select an array, a table array, same thing, right? So let's say I selected the entire table. Okay, so I've done the selection for the array. Now what it's saying is, tell me the row number. So let's say if I tell it the row number as 10, right? Or it won't be 10 because, yeah, it's 10th. Yeah, no, it's 9th. Okay, so let's say I give it the 9th row. And let's say I mentioned the column number. Let's say the column number is 2. So if you see here, what's going to happen is you have to start counting from the table that you selected, right? Customer number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we are here. And we have said row number 9, right? So it is going to come here. And if we mention column number 2, then it's going to find staples and clips. All right. So if I just press 2, it should ideally present me staples and clips, right? Let's see. Yeah. So it just finds the intersection. That's all it does. All right. But that really does not help us much. Okay. So that's about index. That's all that it does. Okay. But let's try to look at that function again properly. Okay, I'll repeat it again. What the index function does is, it just finds the intersection of the row and column that we mentioned. Okay. So in this example, I selected the entire table and I just randomly, this was just for demonstration, I said row number 9 and row number 2, column number 2. So when it came to row number 9, it is here, right? You have to count it from the selection that you have made, not from here. Okay, do not make this mistake of calculating it from the place where there is no data. All right. So we have selected the table from here. So the counting will end here, row number 9. And I mentioned column number 2, which basically means this is the first column and this is the second column, right? So what it just did is just try to find the intersection of these two values. This is what it did. I just have to color it. This is what it just did. Is that clear? Sheetal, is that clear? Now, how can we use this function now to solve our problem of finding customer number using revenue? Right? Now, that's the problem that we need to solve. Now, you tell me just logically, okay? If we just look at the, just forget about Excel for now. For 2 minutes, just forget about Excel and answer me by looking at data. Okay, looking at the table. When you look at revenue, okay, if I ask you a very simple question, what do you know about the data? Do you know the column number of this data? Or do you know the row number of this data? I'll repeat the question again. When I talk about the attributes of this data that we're talking about, revenue, can you tell me which row number this data is on? Or can you easily tell me the column number of this data? Think properly and answer. Don't be in a hurry to answer. Exactly, right? Because we can clearly identify its first column, right? Isn't it? But if somebody tells me to find the row number, I have to actually go and check, right? So that means in order to find the row number, I need a function, right? And in order to find that row number, we precisely have a function available, which is the match function, all right? So let's try to use the match function, and I'll try to do it here so that it's, we can quickly see what's happening. So let's open up the match function. Okay, let's open up the match function. And remember, what are we trying to look at for? We are looking at revenue. So what we are trying to find out is which row number is revenue on. Okay, so when I say which row number the revenue is on, will I select the entire table or will I select the revenue table? Exactly, right? So if I want to find the row number of this data, it absolutely makes no sense to select the entire table, right? Because you're talking about revenue. So you would select the lookup array as this. Now again, a point of caution, I have selected from my headers. Okay, so the counting is going to, so if you're using another function, you have to make sure that you do the selection from the headers as well. So you can't just use two formulas wherein one time you're using the header and one time you're not using the header. That's not going to work. Okay. So the lookup array is selected, right? And I'm going to use the match type as exact. Simple. That's all. The only thing that this function is going to tell us is which row number is this revenue data on. What does it say? 10. Right? And that was the challenge. And we just fixed it using a function, right? So the function now tells us which row number it is on. But remember, the first question which I asked you, what part of the data do you actually know very easily? Column or row? Column you already know. And row we found out using a function. So if I now find out the intersection of it using the index function, it should work, right? So let's try to do the second part of it, which is the index part. Now think of it. Using revenue, we are trying to find customer number. So will I select only one column or will I select the entire table or whichever table it is related to? What array selection should I do? Should I just select one column, just like what I did in match, or should I select the entire table? Because we are using revenue. Using revenue, we're trying to find customer number. What do you think? Remember, we're trying to find the intersection. Okay, we already know the row number now. We already know the column number of customer number. So what should be my array selection? Should it be just one column or should it be this? Okay, so in terms of description, should I select it like this or should I select it like this? Tell me. Then how can you find intersection? If I just select one column, how can I find the intersection? Because remember, we found out the row number for revenue, right? What do we have? The data that we have, the lookup data is revenue, and the revenue is out here. So if I select this column, it has absolutely no meaning, right? So I'll have to select, obviously, the entire table. It's going to be from customer number, because that is what we want to find out, all the way up to revenue, which is what we're going to look up, right? So we're going to select this. This is going to be our selection. All right. And row number, remember, we already found that. F5, right? And column number, what do we want to find out? What are we looking for? We're looking for customer number. Where is customer number? The first column. Close it. Simple as that. Okay. Any doubts still here? Any doubts still here, guys? I am sensing, it's just my sense, that people are a little confused now. Are you confused? A little confused. Okay. What about the rest? Is it clear? Okay. So we will again apply. Okay. We'll keep on applying. Don't worry. We've got two cases here, which you're going to do it as it is. Okay. Which I've given for homework, which you're going to do, and you're going to come across a lot of problems. Okay. So I'm just going to repeat it again. And I'm going to now combine both of the functions in one formula. So index, okay, remember, it just tries to find the intersection. So whenever I try to use the index function, I have to select the entire table. Doesn't matter whether it's there, not there. You really don't have to think about the selection because you can just change the column number, right? So I selected the entire table now. Now, this is where the challenge begins, finding the row number of what I'm trying to look for. And I'm trying to look for, so I'll open up the match function inside the index function. All right. So I'm going to open the match function inside the index function to keep the formula more easy to do. All right. And the lookup value is going to be revenue. Okay. Comma. Lookup value is revenue. And remember, when we're trying to look up the row for revenue, we have to look at, you have to only select the revenue column. So we selected only the revenue column. All right. The match type is 0. So now what this function did out here is to find out the row number of this data. All right. And since now we have the row of the data we want to find out, now the next thing what is required from us is the column number, right? So the column number is first column, right? We don't want the fourth column. We want the first column data, which is customer number. So it's going to be column number 1. There you go. All right. So this is all at one go in one formula combined. And trust me, I find this much more useful than actually using a VLOOKUP function, because it has absolute no limitation. Let the data be text, let the data be in 3 formats, whether it's on the left side, the right side, it absolutely has no limitation. All right. Now, as somebody was asking me, where is this useful? Okay. By the way, let me just explain you what you can practice at home after this class ends at 8:30. We are 24 minutes away, and we have to do another case. Okay, on VLOOKUP and index and function, right? So, and we're going to look at some nice data. All right. You can see out here, I've given you some data related to a location. There's a site code available, and there are some attributes of the data. All right, and the site code is given. All right. Now, using this site code as the lookup value, I want you to find out all of the other attributes of this data, which is location. So if you see location, swing, slide, rocker, climbing frame, and overall result. Okay, you are free to use whichever function you want to use. If you are comfortable with VLOOKUP, you could use VLOOKUP function. And if you're comfortable with HLOOKUP function, you could use the HLOOKUP functions. If you're okay with the index function, any function, okay, whichever is more comfortable. All right. This is your practice case for home, and similarly practice case 2 also. Okay, it's a similar kind of an exercise, so similar information is asked here. All right. Now let's go to the case study. Let's go to your portal. Let's go to the portal. And if you see on your Excel files, getting started with Excel, and you will see case study data lookup. Can you see that file? Case study data file. Screen is not visible. Yes, I know. I'm going to show it. This one. This file in the portal. All right, download this file. Wonderful. And start looking at the data. Okay, those who have already downloaded it, let me download it first. And can anybody tell me what this data is about? Yash, do not worry. Okay, we will visit this again. And you know what I would suggest is, Yash, after the class, just spend in this part of the recording, just go and have a look at the content again and give it one more shot. See, everything in Excel, you can't really expect to replicate in the first attempt. Okay, trust me, it takes years, right? And a lot of practice. So if you want to do it fast, then only thing what you can do is actually practice more. and you have to take random applications. And one such random application is what I've created here. And this is the finance, the financial market data. Exactly. Right. And this data now I have actually, I used to compile this before to test my trading strategies, right? Because that's where you could actually try to use your strategy to check if it actually works in historical data. And then you try to do simulations in the future, and then you try to see if it actually works in the future also, right? So anyways, that is not relevant. So I've got three main asset class data out here, okay? And it has nothing to do with your understanding of finance, okay? It's just data, all right? And we've got crude, Nifty, and gold prices out here, all right? Crude, I'm sure every one of us might be aware of, right? Now, these are the prices, daily prices, but there's a slight, there's a slight twist to this data. You can actually see the date on the A column, right? And also an expiry, which basically means this is not cash market data, okay? This is futures data. So this is the future market data, all right? So generally in backtesting, we use future market data because you've got more amount of data available, all right? So this is the expiry, and every expiry tends to change, right? If you see here, the expiry changes. The important thing to notice in this data is that the unique data is the date, not the expiry, because the expiry is common for a lot of days, right? So keep that in mind. All right. Crude, in every of these assets, right? Whenever the market opens, the price that gets registered is the open price. The price would get, which in the entire day, the highest price which is recorded as high, the lowest similar, and finally when the market is actually closing, right, whichever market, which gets captured is the closing price. And similar thing for Nifty. Now Nifty is basically the index, the representation of how the entire Indian market. So it's top 50 companies of India, which is combined into an index, right, which is called as Nifty. Similar to Nifty in the US, you would have NASDAQ. You would have, if you go to Singapore, it would be different. If you go to Hong Kong, it would be different, right? So similar for gold, right? Open, high, low, close. And I have actually calculated the percentage change of these closing prices on a day-to-day basis. How much did the price change from? Okay, I'm just trying to explain you the data here as of now. Okay, I'm not trying to explain you finance. I'm just trying to explain what all these data points mean. So what I've tried to find out is how much did the price change on a day-to-day basis. All right, so crude, Nifty, gold. All right, that's all. That's it. Now let's go to the questions. This is where I want you to use your lookup index and match application, right? So if you see here, I've given the date of expiry as 20th Feb 2012, and I've got date as 1st Feb 2012. Now remember always that date is just a number in Excel. This is how you see the date, but in reality, this is actually a serial number. Okay, let me show you how. So if you just go to your format, okay, just go to home, and if you come to the number section, and you can see custom here, and if you just select number, this is actually a number. There is no such thing as a date. Okay, that is just what is visible to you in terms of formatting. All right. So having said that, that's the reason why you could use date to find a certain data, right? Because date is unique. This number of date which is mentioned out here is actually a serial number. So you could actually use a serial number to find something related to the data, right? So what I'm going to do is I want to use the date to find the closing price of gold on that particular date. Now tell me, out of these two, which one should I use to find the closing price of gold? Which one of these two should I use, the date or should I use expiry? Because expiry, remember, is not unique. Expiry is not unique. Expiry, if you see here, the date, expiry is also date. But the problem is expiry is not unique. It is spread across dates. Yes, right? So let's put up, since we were using the index and match function, let's use the index and match function. And if you want to try it out using the VLOOKUP function, you're free to do that. But I tend to like the index function more. All right. Now, when you're doing calculation across sheets, you have to remember one thing. Once you open the bracket, you have to click on the next sheet. So I have to select the array, right? And the array is on the another sheet. So let's select that. All right. Now I need to select the array, remember? So, and remember, I'm trying to use date to find the closing price of gold. That means my selection will start from A all the way up till N. All right. So let me do that. So I selected till N, and now I press Control Shift and down arrow key. Control Shift and down arrow key, so that all the entire table was selected. All right. Now let me put a comma. And since you are in another sheet, you can see in your formula, it shows you that you are on market data sheet. All right. Now, row number. So let's put up the match function. We want to find the row number of that date that we're trying to look up. Now, again, since we have opened up the match function here, my lookup value is on another sheet. So I'll have to select question because that's where the date is available, right? So you can see here, it shows me, never delete this, okay? Never delete questions. Now select the date. So I selected the date value, put a comma. Now again, my lookup array is on another sheet, right? So you'll get used to this because see, this is the first time possibly you are working across sheets, and this is going to happen more. Okay. Now my lookup array for the date is on the market data sheet. So I'm gonna select market data, and this is again one of the mistakes. What happens is people will select it from here. Okay, and what you have missed out is that you are on row number 2729. So what the easiest way to do is go to the second row, okay, and just use a down arrow key. So you'll come to the top. All right, and remember, you selected the first array from A2, which is using the headers. So I have to make sure I do that for even the match function. So I have to select it from A2 also. I selected the date, put a comma, and use the 0 for finding the exact row number, right? Put a comma after that. Now you want to find what the closing price of gold, right? Now you just got to have a quick count on, you could do that using Excel also, but I'm just going to do it manually right now. So this is first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14th column. So I'm going to press 14 out here and I'm going to close it. 2, 3, 4, 2, 6. Does that sound complicated enough? It has to. The formula is not complicated. The only complication is actually the data. So this is real life, guys. Okay, this is actual data. So the templates that we practice initially will always be easy, but the application that we will do will most likely be something like this. Let me know if they have done this. And do confirm once you're done. You're done with this part. Then we'll move to the next one. Why 14? Because it's the 14th column. The data that we want to find out, right? We want to display the closing price of gold, right? So if you see here, this is what my selection was, right? Right? This is what my selection was. So if you see here in the table that I selected, the number of column where my data which I want to display is in the 14th column, n equals 14, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. You keep counting and you reach 14 here. Sounds good? I sense everybody okay. Aishwarya, Ajay, Imran, Kalpana, Mahesh. You guys okay? Is this too complicated? All good. Okay. Let's give a shot to the next question. What is the expiry date? Using the date. This is an easy one. Using the date, find the expiry date. Can you quickly tell me and just post your formulas here? Okay, and we will leave it till there. And then I'll explain you what to do in question number 3, 4, and 3 and 4. And then we will continue tomorrow. Why not? All right. So the second question, let's use index and match again. The array would be, let's go and select the array in the next table. Since we are talking about just date and expiry, we don't really have to select the entire table. So we can stick to A and B column, Control Shift and down arrow key. So it gives me the entire selection out there. And since I have to find the row number, I'm going to use the match function. Okay. And I'm going to look at the date since it's a unique value, right? So I'm doing a little fast. Okay. I hope that doesn't bother you. The lookup value is going to be the date, and the lookup array, because we're looking at the date, we have to look at the date column itself. So I'm going to look at the date column using the headers. Remember, do not forget that whichever type of selection you have done, you need to repeat that again. All right, that's the exact match. Column number, we want to find the expiry. Now, can anyone tell me why this error is actually coming? Let's try to do some debugging here. Can anybody try to find out what the error is in this formula? Let me paste it in your chat. There you go. Which bracket? This one? This one? Okay. That's it. So I change the bracket. Doesn't work. What else is the mistake? See here. How to look at this is, if you see in your index, you calculate, you selected the array, which is fine, A2 to B2748, right? So that's perfect. And you went to match and you looked at the lookup value C1, so looks fine. Then you went to lookup array, so you went from A2 to A2748, which is fine. Okay. Then you looked at the match type, and this is where you wanted the bracket, right? Because you wanted to close this up in the match function, right? And then you selected the second column. Is there any mistake here? Can anybody else point out the mistake in my previous formula or this formula? C10. What is C10? Question C1. Yes. Exactly. Good one. All right. So what I want you to do after this, again, I'll copy this formula for you. Just to verify. What I want you to do later on, after we finish this class, is to use a maximum function to find the maximum daily price change which has happened. Okay, so I'll just give you an example out here. You just open up, just write MAX, go to market data, come to this column out here on the O column. Okay, and just select the price changes. So it will give you, what it's trying to tell you is, in a day, the maximum percentage change that ever happened for crude was 16.84. All right. And if you just paste it across the right, you'll also get it for the index fund, the index and the gold asset. Similar thing, I want you to do it for minimum. What is the lowest change which happened from the last day's price, right? But that's not what the main challenge was. The main thing was to find out the day when it happened. So I want you to find the dates on which this change, maximum and minimum, happened. So that's something that you can do it post the class. And now I'll open it for questions if anybody has or any doubts or any thing that you want to talk about. It's open right now. All right, so I'll just open it for doubt solving right now. Any doubts? Any questions? Anything you would like to speak on? Or else we've just got 1 minute before we end our second day. Not a problem. And guys, you really don't have to wait, till you come to the class to ask it out. The classroom is open for discussions. The Google Classroom, the portal is open for discussion. WhatsApp is there. Telegram is there. YouTube is there. So you've got all the platforms. You really don't have to wait till the classroom to ask it out, because I can really, on the go clear your doubts and give you the suggestion right away. All right. Anybody else has got anything to say? Any doubts? Any feedback? All right. So in that case, what we'll do is we will meet up again tomorrow at 7 p.m. All right. Tomorrow will be day 3. And hopefully, let me just. Oops. I'm so sorry. When did I mute myself? Since when am I on mute? Was I on mute since like ever? Okay, I suppose I was just on mute for 15 seconds. Okay, fine. Okay. So what I was saying is, on tomorrow's agenda, we will restrict our Excel now for this much. Okay, we will visit Excel again later on. Okay, because it tends to get a little boring just to learn functions. Tomorrow we will get into a little bit of financial mathematics, very critical and very fundamentals for valuation research, right? So we'll start tomorrow with our first class on time value of money. All right, same time 7 p.m. I would encourage you to guys, even if you do watch the recordings, but make sure that you come to the class because it becomes more interactive. It's more fun to have these discussions. Obviously, if it was just about a video, you could always go to YouTube and watch videos. There are plenty of videos available, but it's the discussion which is irreplaceable, right? Otherwise, Udemy is always there, right? Udemy, you've got videos everywhere. So the main thing about live classes is discussion. So I would encourage you to come to the class. And anyways, the video recording will be available at a later stage. And encourage your friends also to join if there are any to the community so that they could benefit as well. All right. So thank you so much for getting your time, spending the time with us, especially a lot of people who have actually taken out time from their office, from the personal time. Thank you so much. And I will meet you again tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Where can we get the assignment? You mean to say this sheet? Are you talking about this sheet? Kalpana, are you talking about which assignment are you talking about? This sheet is already available on the portal. Do you have access to the portal? Do you have access to the Google Classroom? Oh, then how are you managing to learn? Hold on. Hold on. There you go. I've sent you this link. This is the website link. Just go on that. Just click on that. And you will see the first part. Oh, let me just show it to you. Hold on. So this link will take you here on the course page. Just come down and you will see the essential part. So once you click on enroll for free, it will ask your details, registration details for the Google Classroom, and then it will redirect you to this place, the Google Classroom, this one. So you'll come directly here. And this is where everything is available. Okay, the content, the assignments, the quick sheets, everything will be posted out here. All right. Welcome, Kalpana. Thank you, and have a good night, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.